Welcome back everyone to my channel. Thanks so much for being here. I appreciate it. I hope you guys have been enjoying the first week of summer this past week or so. Here in Western Canada, it has been a combination of a lot of rain and a lot of rain in the past week. So we will take it to let our grasses grow. However, we wouldn't mind some sunshine fairly soon. Now, leading into my pour, I'm working on a pour. I don't do a ton. I'm looking at a straight pour that I've actually kind of combined initially into a stacked pour. So I'm going to be doing a bit of stacking and some straight pours into the color here. And here's some deep magenta. All these colors are also from Liquitex as well. So they're all brand new to me. A deep magenta, brilliant blue, ultramarine blue, and prism violet, which are all very bright and pretty colors. Okay, now as we go into the pour a bit deeper here, now I had to use a yogurt container. Now, shame on me for skipping my inventory portion of my painting assets, we'll call them. I didn't have, a 20-ounce clear cup to show you the color as I was stacking or straight pouring into the cup. So we'll have to kind of see from the top what those patterns look like, and I'll have to go to the store and buy some 20-ounce cups to fill this right to the top. I'm using a 16-inch by 20-inch canvas as well, and I poured myself 21 ounces of paint. So this is going to be a lot of color really fast, and bear with me through the end and we'll see a very pretty painting. All right, one thing I wanted to mention quickly is observationally, and also after my pour was done, I thought what this painting could have used was a little bit of white in between my colors. So what I'm finding as I'm looking back on the video now is that although these colors are very vibrant and pretty, they're going to wind up drying awfully dark, and some white in between some color would have broken up that color a bit more to allow for different layers of the colors. So, the purple, then the blue, then some white, and then some crimson or some deep magenta, And this way it would allow for a bit of separation and a bit more color in the piece in the end. Now, like I mentioned before, this is my first stacked or straight pour in quite some time. What are your thoughts on this type of pour? Are you proficient in it? Is it new to you? Have you tried it often? What are your results if you have in the past? I'm curious below in the comments to see how your straight pours have turned out and how you might go about them with color combination, and generally speaking, do they work or do they turn out muddy? Let me know. Now, as a quick little note here, looking down on this video, briefly, here's a quick story. At the market I was in recently, I was told by a customer walking by who had seen some of my paintings that she commented that I seem to really enjoy the colors blue and purple. If she's watching, yes, I do like purple and blue a lot, as we can tell in this pour. So a good combination of magenta blue, ultramarine blue, and some prism violet as my colors of choice. And I went to town on this pour, kind of went all willy-nilly with where things were going. And one thing I wanted to just note is if I were to have left that last little bit of prism violet out of the middle, I might have been a bit more happy with how things turned out in the end, but you kind of live with what you have and go from there. Now, in my first swipe, I found it to be fairly successful. The swipes really went quite well, and my paint to Floetrol recipe for my swipes is 1 part titanium white by Amsterdam and 2 parts Australian Floetrol as well for my lacing effects. And now getting into my tilts, I did have a lot of paint here, upwards of 21 ounces of total paint, and wanted to really kind of separate the lacing as best I could without stretching it too badly, and also wanting to just maintain the paint on the canvas for as long as possible before deciding which corner to dump off first. Okay, now as we get into the first corner of my tilts, I'm really quite happy with the composition and how the lacing is stretching overall on this pour. And I was very careful and slow on this very first corner, kind of wiggling it back and forth, side to side. And this is sped up about 1.5 times actual speed, so I'm going much slower, back and forth, trying to keep as much paint as possible before dumping off that first corner. Again, just to maintain the amount of paint I might need to carry over all 4 corners. Now, I was very happy with how the lacing turned out on that first tilt off the corner. I was afraid that the more I began to tilt back and forth through the other 3 corners left, that the crispness in the lacing might go away. And luckily, I found in the past little while that Amsterdam titanium white, for myself anyway, tends to hang on longer than any other paint. That's just my preference, or what I know for now, without testing more. So I was pretty happy with the lacing effects overall, and I wanted to keep those on the pour as best I could, knowing that they were a bit of a focal point on top of this bright color I have on the pour. Okay, now as for this pour, really it was 4 corners and done. Now, in terms of technique, I found that this particular technique, the straight pour or stacked pour, is maybe one of the more simpler ones. If you're a beginner, want to try something simple and not too complicated, this is your go-to. Really choose your 3 or 4 colors and go from there. Dump your color out, tilt, 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 and that's it. Now, overall, what do you guys think on this pour? I'd love to hear your comments below on what you think, my color combinations, the colors generally, and also the overall look and feel of this particular 16x20 gallery canvas pour. And if you have enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and liking the video as well. I would appreciate any support you guys can give me. And now in terms of a finished result, this is the overhead look of the 16x20 with the deep magenta, brilliant blue, ultramarine blue, and prism violet. I really was a big fan of how the lacing turned out overall. And one thing I did note is that the Amsterdam over time did sink a little into the color before it dried, as a heads up with these darker colors. So keep that in mind for your next straight pour. Anyway, comment below on what you thought, and we will see you again in the next one.